exploring lakes, rivers, and reservoirs across the country with an unyielding goal to enlighten viewers from a fisheye perspective. Come along and we'll investigate the habitat. Much more than a fishing show, this is an eye-opening aquatic experience. Welcome to Kim Stricker's Hook and Look. Nothing, short of a cold front, is more disheartening to an angler than spotting a yellow weed control notice posted on your lake of choice. The chemical application alters the habitat, compelling anglers to adjust and seek out unaffected, healthy vegetation. That's the scenario on this week's episode as Kim exposes his quarry, waiting in ambush below. Whether emergent or a submersed variety, aquatic plants attract cover-loving fish like the largemouth bass. Bait fish, too, will seek out the structure and security vegetation can provide. Most anglers recognize this detail and will generally target these visible areas. On the other hand, following herbicide treatments, the newly opened water, free of heavy undergrowth, compels bass to disperse, making them much harder to pinpoint. So, following a disappointing early bite in the lily pads, our host, for the moment, shifts his focus towards the wide open space.
The center of the canal is about 6 foot deep. Here we go. Shadowlicious. Shadowlicious. There we are. All right. That'll work. We'll get us started. We're basically in the center right now, the center of these canals. That's a decent fish, huh? And maybe in the afternoon they'll get up in these pads. But right now, old Shadowlicious is gonna catch them. A local fisherman that lives here told me that ever since they treated the weeds, the bite has been tough. And I can see there are some remnants of what looks like Eurasian milfoil. Hello everyone, thanks for tuning in. I've got to be honest, the primary reason I chose this particular body of water was its abundance of lily pads, thinking it would be a likely spot to shoot a popping perch show. However, so far this morning, the topwater bite in this particular section of the lake wasn't happening. So I moved to a canal where the vegetation was less affected by the most recent herbicide treatment. Well, it's back in here is where I expected to catch them, so let's give it a gallant try. All it takes is a bust. I can also pitch my Menace grub in this stuff too. That taller stuff I can't get in. Those thicker pads right there need to be pitched at. Yes, sirree. Big blackie out of that stuff. Yeah, that taller stuff, I can't get my popping perch in there. Hold on, he didn't even know he's caught yet. Easy, 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 easy. There we go. That's a nice, but look how black they are when they come out of this stuff. Real dark. But yeah. Oof. And I stuck you good. Menace grub. One of my favorite little flipping baits to get inside between these pads. That's a nice solid fish. Out of the thick stuff. Well, we're just gonna continue along. I mean, there's some fish out in the open. I could swim that Shadowlicious out there. But the popping perch is gonna get some blow-ups. And I'm gonna go in and I'm gonna pitch that Menace grub and we'll put something together. All right. Okie dokie.
Hook and Look will be right back after these messages. Stay tuned. Hook and Look is brought to you by Strike King Lure Company, #1 in fishing lures. Seagar, trust Seagar when everything is on the line. Power Pole, swift, silent, secure. The original Owaki tool, your soft bait's best mate. And by Indian River, Michigan Tourist Bureau. Pure water, pure trails, pure north. Although quite stunning and aesthetically pleasing, these spikes of pinkish purple flowers are in fact an invasive perennial plant of concern. Purple loosestrife, an exotic plant frequently found fringing lakes, ponds, and roadside ditches, has prolific seed production and spreads rhizomes that give it the ability to form dense thickets, detrimentally displacing native plants.
Ooh. He's got it. That one got it. Nice fish too. Come on up here. Whoa. That one just gobbled that popping perch. Look at that. Man. And here comes the sandhill cranes. Oh yeah. He's a little skinny. Got the head on him, but he's a nice, quiet on the set. Those sandhill cranes. Well, nice fish. Let's just keep popping that perch. Dude, jeez, was that awesome? It came completely out of the water.
Unequivocally, the northern pike were out and about, aggressively busting the popping perch this morning. Time and again, the toothy assailants would clear the water's surface with a vengeance.
I ain't gonna have these baits left, that keeps up.
But as of yet, the bass weren't coming to the surface. So Kim reverts back to the Menace grub and gradually makes his way back in a canal and discovers a combination of thick, healthy milfoil amidst the lily pads.
Man, we ought to get bit under this stuff. Yeah, baby. Right under that milfoil. I knew they had to be in here, but they're just not aggressive enough to come up for that popping perch right now. As I say, it's probably that dog days of summer. That's a decent fish. Heck yeah. Well, we'll continue to pitch that Menace grub if we have to. Go on back in there. Oh, you come on out of that stuff. So this is what you want. The Menace grub. Huh? That's the deal. Under this milfoil, boy, we're gonna punch this stuff like crazy now. All right, thank you, baby. It became quite evident that the dense cover offered by the milfoil was acting like a magnet, drawing in the bass tightly. Furthermore, healthy aquatic vegetation produces life-sustaining oxygen required by all fish, escalating the attraction. This right here, this thick milfoil right here looks good. It's got more depth to it. I'll drop my power poles and plop in the center of it. They can be anywhere in this stuff. That's a good one. That's a big fish. Oh, he's wrapped up in that stuff.
This is where a stout flipping rod and 65-pound test Seagar flip and braid really comes into play. If you're going to fish the thick stuff, you need to be adequately equipped to hoist not only the fish, but the vegetation as well.
Another valuable benefit of aquatic plants is that they naturally filter sediment out of the water. Now, on the other hand, if left unmanaged, invasive weeds such as Eurasian milfoil will quickly spread and eventually choke out the entire canal, making it virtually unnavigable. When we come back, we'll talk to those who apply the aquatic herbicides.
A lesson in aquatic weed management and the need for balance is on deck. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Hook and Look. Aware of the fact that the matter of aquatic herbicide treatment can be a sore subject among many fishermen, Kim scheduled a visit with a certified applicator, Dick Pinagle. Not only is Dick the owner of Aqua Weed Control, but he is also the current president of the Michigan Aquatic Managers Association. He begins by sharing the substance within a permit.
99.9% of all water bodies are to have a chemical application require a permit from the Department of Environmental Quality. As an example, this is what one permit looks like. This is one permit, and it's 10 pages long. But the permit specifies what can be applied, when it can be applied, how often, treatment intervals. It specifies what the target plants can and can't be. Certain species have slightly different restrictions regarding how they can be treated and when. For example, emergent vegetation like lily pads. And we do, as company policy, permit all water bodies, regardless of the size. Typical treatment pattern for a lake, let's say, is more of a widespread whole lake treatment, whole shoreline anyway, typically the first part of the summer, late May and early June, before July 4th for sure. And then sometime in late July, early August, you might see us back for spot applications, milfoil regrowth, for example, some touch-ups around some docks and things like that. Then we start getting more into the starry stonewort control.
Starry stonewort. This is the nasty invasive that most concerns me and is spreading rapidly throughout southern Michigan. As fishermen, we've come to appreciate that, like native aquatic vegetation, most of the non-native weeds do have some beneficial value from a fisheries standpoint. For instance, Eurasian milfoil. Largemouth bass and other species absolutely love it. The foliage offers security where bass, minnows, and fingerlings can find refuge. And like in today's show, if you come across a healthy patch, I recommend you fish it. But as I mentioned before, the unfortunate problem is, if left unmanaged, these invasive weeds would rapidly spread way out of control. Starry stonewort, on the other hand, has more of a detrimental effect from both a fisheries and a recreational point of view. Dick tells us more.
It's a macroalgae, so it's an algae. It's not really an aquatic vascular plant. It's akin to Chara, Nitella, and other macroalgae. But starry stonewort can grow literally 8, 9, 10 feet tall. It can choke out all other aquatic plants. Nothing outcompetes starry stonewort.
In a variety of lakes, we've documented underwater how starry stonewort grows in tall billows, consuming much of the water column. At first glance, it appears as if you're looking at the lake bottom, when in reality, there's 4 feet of water column taken up by the starry stonewort below. You can visualize the depth by how I'm standing in the dense mat. In fact, these mats are so dense, much like a sponge, where fish can't really penetrate it for security. They just openly cruise over it as if it were the bottom substrate. The only area where they could possibly tuck away is right at the very lip of the edge. This is how starry stonewort appears on down imaging. It grows so dense that you get a bottom reading from the top of the mat at 5 feet. The true bottom on the screen is actually over 8 feet. What's concerning is its density makes the starry stonewort extremely difficult to control.
There's no one-shot control where you're going to take out starry stonewort. It is a It is sort of taking it off layer by layer.
Managing aquatic vegetation, especially in our eutrophic inland lakes, is inevitable. It needs to be performed to uphold any recreational value. Hey, I'm a lakefront homeowner and my family likes to swim, water ski, and tube, but of course I realize too just how important aquatic vegetation is to maintaining a healthy fishery. It's basically an aquatic balancing act.
This subject of balance, and it's the right topic to have. It really is, because when you have folks paying yearly dues or they're getting assessed, many times they'll have an expectation, and many times it can be a sort of a swimming pool expectation. And we as lake professionals and lake association folks, we need to educate folks living on these water bodies that there must be a balance between a healthy aquatic plant community and a managed community to where you can still have a recreational value for what many of the folks expect. And we can have situations where that's a headbutting problem. And I find myself, even though my business is controlling aquatic plants, but we want to do it ethically and according to the permit, where we must maintain a balance between recreational activities and a healthy plant community. How much structure should be in a lake? And the last study that I read, produced by DNR Fisheries here in Michigan, was you need between 25 and 40% of the littoral zone must have healthy aquatic plants. So if you think about, you've got 100 acres of littoral zone in your lake, you need to have about 30 acres of it or so with healthy aquatic plants at least. And that's something that should be considered.
Stay tuned. The Pop and Perch Bite picks up when Hook and Look returns. This portion of Hook and Look is brought to you by Ranger Boats, still building legends one at a time. Simms Fishing Products, the choice of professional guides and anglers worldwide. Cushit, world's most comfortable rod butt. And by Sportfish Michigan, your source for the top charter captains and guides.
Those bass, see it? Silhouette coming across all those pads. The lily pads are transparent. I know some of you probably don't realize that, but they see it the whole way. And obviously when it hits the open pockets, that's when they'll bust on it. Ooh, there's a good one. There's a good one right there. At the old poppin' perch. Getting the pads. Kind of few and far between on the poppin' perch today, but now that it's later in the day, they might start jumping on it. Not too bad a fish. I'm gonna let you roll right back to your pads. Right next to the old poppin' perch. Come up out of that stuff. You missed it. Still missed it. Got it. Was that awesome? 3 times the charm. That was awesome. This demonstrates how important it is not to set the hook immediately upon the blow-up. Watch again as he explodes on the bait. The perch is gone, but I don't feel the fish, so I don't set the hook. Again, the same thing. I don't feel any weight, and the perch pops to the surface. Then he sucks it in. And when I do feel the fish, I cross his eyes with 65-pound test smackdown braid. Having patience is the key. Thank you for being persistent. That's awesome. You got it good that time. Get out of there. That's it. The poppin' perch. I tell you, all the guys at Strike King, all the pro staff worked on this thing for a couple of years to get it right. Let me let him go. No doubt, Strike King raised the bar for hollow-bodied topwater baits with the KVD popping perch. Built around a perfectly matched 4/0 hook, the body was crafted to produce a lifelike look, including big strike-inducing eyes and baitfish-shaped fins. The popping perch also features long rubber skirting and a small hole in the top of the bait which allows air to escape, increasing collapsibility. But it's the attention-grabbing splash and prominent chug the concave mouth generates that really makes this lure excel. Whether you walk it with a lightning-fast march to entice reaction strikes or methodically crawl it for lethargic predators, the KVD popping perch is simply the bomb. I hope today's episode enlightened you and perhaps eased your anxiety to some extent in regards to herbicide treatments. The fish haven't totally vanished, they've only been displaced from your known vegetated target areas. No doubt, when bass scatter, it presents a greater challenge and you'll likely have to rummage around and adjust presentations to be successful. But aquatic weed management is necessary to maintain that preferred balance where we all can enjoy the recreational value of our lakes. Please join us again next week on Hook and Look.
Hook and Look is a Kim Stricker production.